Welcome back to the Big O Retrospective. And we're going to move on to the next portion of this retrospective. You see, now that the cast has been covered, it's time we speak of some of the themes of the Big O, and really get into what we can take away from the series. These themes will cover a lot of topics and can tell us a lot about humanity and character growth. I wanted to save this section for, after the character discussions because I feel getting to know the characters will help us understand how they convey these themes to us. For this reason, however, I do apologize if, bits and pieces are cannibalized into these videos as well. To start with this section, we're going to start on a very surface level theme, and that's the theme of how one deals with the past. This is a key element in the show, as Paradigm City is a city with no memory, the city of amnesia, where the past is a nebulous concept, and not really concrete. It takes the amnesia trope of noir to the extreme by ensuring that everyone has some collective amnesia. This in turn negates a lot of what many dislike about the amnesia trope, that it's a cheap way of generating drama and tension. Instead, this creates a mystery which in turn grabs in the viewer's attention and pulls them in. It also allows the viewer to better identify with certain characters, as certain characters deal with this differently. Therefore, many people identify with characters who would probably follow a similar approach that they would. It shows us the merits of different approaches as well. All of these approaches fall on its spectrum ranging from complete disregard to the past to complete obsession with it. On one extreme is Alan Gabriel, the seemingly complete nihilist who wants only chaos. He sees the past as pointless, and goes as far as to deny its existence, saying, "There are no memories, there's no past, and it doesn't matter." Now, this is just his nihilism coming out, but he does have some points. To him, we should only live in the present. To him, the past shouldn't even be seen as any kind of context or influencer on how we make our decisions. It should be disregarded completely. Now, memories and one's past don't completely define a person, but they are important in order to provide a sort of canvas on which a person will paint themselves. Their self-portrait, so to say. Without a portrait of himself, though, Alan can't grow or evolve as a person. He refuses to, in fact. He doesn't struggle to, he refuses to. And he stagnates, and as such, his character doesn't really do anything, as mentioned in his own character analysis. In the end, he's punished for this. Not only does Big Duo deem him guilty and, directly take care of him, but his character doesn't really grow. His refusal to give the past any importance means that he's refused to grow in any way. On the other end of the spectrum is Schwarzwald, a man who obsesses over the past, the true timeline of events which came before and possibly caused the amnesia of the city. This has become his quest, to learn of and understand as much of the past as he can. It is because he needs to know the foundation of the world, a desire very common in humanity, to know where one comes from in order to guide him on where to go next. He sees a need for the past in order to help him think, and wishes others to think more. This leads him astray, however, as a search for the perfect canvas on which to paint himself consumes so much of himself that he never really gets around to completing his self-portrait. He definitely changes, but his obsession with the past blinds him to his family and to himself. He's not changed for the best. He's consumed by what is essentially a wild goose chase for what is a mostly useless trinket. Knowing the past is realistically not really going to help this guy that much. It's not entirely stupid or pointless, however, and Schwarzwald's approach does remind the viewer that we need to question things. We need to question the past. And it does matter. Context is important for how one determines who they are now. It's just that he does so much that his approach takes over his life and ruins it. While he's still capable of functioning, he doesn't really live. Instead, he's just consumed by this overwhelming desire to know the past. Something that, again, realistically is not gonna help him too much by this point. He does change, but he doesn't change for the better. And he cannot change the past, and he cannot go live in it or alter it. His quest does alter him, however, again, for the worse, essentially destroying his life, proving that obsessing over the past is also a disastrous approach to it. With the extremes of the spectrum mapped out, now let's see what's in between. Alex and Angel serve as lesser versions of Alan and Schwarzwald, respectively. Alex acknowledges the past, but tries to forcefully overwrite it, while Angel obsesses over the past, but not to the point of complete consumption. In the center, slowly moving from disregarding the past to seeing it as somewhat important, is Roger Smith. Now Roger starts with a very pragmatic view of things. As mentioned in earlier videos, he's mostly fine with living no past when we first meet him. He openly ignores it. He sees it as a distraction. He doesn't really care, honestly. He just does his thing and lives by his own rules day by day. Again, though, Schwarzwald provides the impetus to him questioning his views. As mentioned earlier, he says it's important to question things. And this brings up the flaw in Roger's worldview, that his worldview lacks some context. He can't really, contextualize himself that well because he doesn't take the past into serious consideration. This was one of Roger's earliest limiting things as a character. He always seemed somewhat disconnected from the world, like he didn't really care, and part of that was not caring about the past. In addition, it made him seem like an incomplete person. He still had great potential for growth for the greater good. As the series progresses, Roger evolves, of course, and he learns this, and he learns the importance for some context in life. and, how it can shape one's life. He goes a little overboard, he gets dependent on this, and he has his identity crisis. But he does come to terms with how to balance the importance of the past with living it today. And as the series progresses, he comes to a healthy compromise, as he knows that regardless of the past, he cannot go live in it, and he can only live in the present. He knows that he needs to do what he needs to do to live today. But who he is today is a person who has been shaped by the past. Someone who in turn carries on the impact of the past to the present, but someone who must march towards the future, and therefore be the best embodiment of himself today. Finally, Dorothy being an android creates a really neat way to analyze the concepts of memory. Since she's an android, her memories are seen in a more physical, tangible way, like discs and such. And this compared to her human character's memories, which are more nebulous and vague. While she's still subject to the collective amnesia that Paradigm has, the fact that her memory is physical makes her perspective on the topic much more visceral. It can be physically deleted, as mentioned several times. It can be physically altered. Memory in the past had a physical impact on not only her, but, today. And her evolution shows a need to overcome a sort of controlling or obsessive past. Initially, Dorothy is completely defined by her past. Her purpose, in fact, was to recreate a specter of the past, a dead person, and embody it, literally. She lives under the terrifying cloud that her purpose and goals in life were pre-decided for her, and this strips her of a lot of agency when we first meet her. She literally cannot function without her memory at the start of the series. As the series progresses, however, and she becomes much more in touch with herself and her humanity, she overcomes the dreary thought of merely being a relic of the past. She becomes her own self. She overrides the shackles of the past, and literally and figuratively breaks them. Notice how, by the final episode, she doesn't need her memory bank to function anymore. She transcends the physical and figurative chains of the past. And this is what the Big O is trying to tell us, that while the past is important for how it has shaped us, it does not stop us from shaping ourselves today.